and it was how long people had been there.
Wow.
And I had 20 people that had been there 10 plus years. It's not okay to lose. We play to win, but we can win and do it the right way. The two are not mutually exclusive. In fact, I believe they are intricately connected. I've always felt that loyalty is a two-way street. I've got to trust that the manager on the other end is going to take my call and say, hey, we got to do something. We got to meet at 3 o'clock in the morning. We got to do what we got to do. But there's a reciprocal part of that. I have to be loyal back to them. You're still wide receiver one. You're still seeing the field. You're coming back in there. Now you drop the ball every play. That might be a different answer.
I tried it candidly for maybe a few years and we struggled with it. How did it become a thing? How did you not only identify it, but then execute it?
This is Lance Dearborn, founder and CEO of Take-Two Logistics, and you're watching the Last2First Podcast.
All right, check this out. If you're in the last mile delivery industry, we have created something that's just for you. We've called it the Last2First Huddle, or the L2F Huddle. We can come into an ecosystem or community built for the last mile, by the last mile. Now, you'll be able to get access to educational courses, right? Playbooks, as I call them. We build playbooks teaching you everything from A to Z in the last mile industry. Everything from how to set your right driver model, to how to navigate misclassification issues, to how to find customers, how to price that work, how to operate it, all the way through to if you want to buy a company, how do you value those businesses. We also have an AI tool called Ask Miles. Miles will answer any how-to question about the industry. I've personally trained it myself. It's pretty damn good. And then also, we're about community. So you're going to access coaches, experts. We have film studies or weekly calls. You'll be able to deep dive into workshops. Look, this is the place to be if you're in the last mile industry. L2FHuddle.com. I'll see you inside. It's time to huddle up. Let's do it. Last2First family, welcome back to our next episode of the Last2First Podcast. We bring you the innovators pushing the last mile from last to first in today and tomorrow's supply chain. I'm joined today with another great guest. We're going to break down his journey, but also where we think the industry is going and kind of his outlook on that today. This is a numbers guy. This is one of the guys that's highly respected in the industry, has had a lot of success, and is back for a second act. I'm joined with Lance Dearborn, who is now the founder and CEO of a new entity called Take-Two Logistics, based here in Florida. Lance, welcome to the podcast.
Jason, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I should have said, too, formerly you created and started Fast Mile.
Fast Mile Logistics.
Oh, you
I owned it. I did not start it.
You bought it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
you know what, Lance, before we get into like the actual conversation, there's a very finite amount of people when their name comes up in this industry, like everyone has something positive to say about them. And you're one of those guys. Like, I don't care when I've heard your name come up in different capacities, it's always been something very positive, thoughtful, and you have a phenomenal reputation in the industry. So credit to you, and thank you for being on the podcast, man. I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really feel like in what we do, it is really about people. Mm-hmm. It is, whether it's the people within our business, within our company, our customers, or people within the industry as a whole. But at the end of the day, it's all about people.
Yeah. Let's start with Take-Two, because it's a new thing. I want people to understand kind of what you're doing there, and then we'll get back into the origin story. So describe Take-Two Logistics. You got something, it's a second act for you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So we do on-demand and point-to-point work, scheduled work around Greater Orlando and Central Florida. Okay. So it is straight on-demand work. It is really going back to the roots, which I know we'll talk more about, but it's really going back to the roots of where we were 35 and 40 years ago, but it is straight pick up point A, deliver to point B. We opened December 1st, so we're only about a few months in at this point. It was 30 days. We actually had about 26 days to come out of retirement, start a company, bring the team together, get the customers on board, and start work the day after Thanksgiving. So we started about November 5th, and we had to be ready to go the day after Thanksgiving. It was an intense month.
Were you that bored in retirement?
I was not, and I was not looking to come out. I was not. The opportunity was just right, and we go back to what we said a minute ago. It's about the people. Yeah. And the people that I worked with for so long, they were losing their position. The segment of business was closing, and I just felt like it was the right thing to do for me.
Yeah.
I got remarried a few years ago, and it's really great to do this with my wife, Tina. So we're doing this together.
Yeah.
And with absolutely terrific people, all of which have been with me for a long, long time.
Yeah. Speaking of your wife, Tina, I see you guys a lot on Facebook, and I see you a lot at UCF games. Right?
Everyone.
You're a big UCF alum supporter. So that's your alma mater?
That is exactly right. So, after I say after high school, but I dropped out of high school. So I dropped out of high school, then had a few years where I was trying to figure life out. Let's just say I was not, but I was not in the right space. Then went back to college, got an accounting degree from UCF, a master's in taxation from UCF. I was planning on being a CPA, and I was sitting for the CPA at the time. When then this opportunity came up to take over and to own Fast Mile at the time. But so now UCF is I love going to the games. I grew up a Florida State fan.
Okay.
And UCF at the time was obviously at a different level of sports, and it's been really fun to be part of the UCF building as they're building their program. So it's fun building things.
Yeah.
So it's done that. So yeah, go to every football game, go to a couple of all home games, go to a couple of away games a year, go to all the baseball games.
Yeah.
It's a great time.
I got a good friend of mine who coached there for a little while, Cortez Hankton.
Okay.
He's a receiver coach. He actually just left LSU. Lane Kiffin fired him. But he landed at Ohio State. So
wow, nice.
Lance
He did well.
So it's not a bad thing. So shout out to Tez. But he was at UCF for a couple years there. He played for Jacksonville.
Okay.
So he's kind of in the Florida area.
Right.
But he's on track. I think he'll be a head coach in a few years. But he's I remember when that was the first time him and then Brandon Marshall.
Oh yeah.
Right, so when B. Marsh was at UCF,
Exactly.
around time I was in school playing ball, and that's when UCF became kind of known to me.
Right.
But
right.
but in this new era with NIL and other things happening,
gosh.
like it's exciting how programs can
They really can.
take leaps. I mean,
Right.
man, I played at Vanderbilt.
Right. And the change there in the last few years has
Unbelievable.
been unbelievable.
So I love
Yeah.
I love what college sports is doing and the parity
Yes.
that's now.
Well, Indiana winning it all. Like, who would have thought 5 years ago Indiana, they were lucky to make a bowl game.
Hoosiers, baby.
Right, exactly.
that was, and then the most interesting stat that I saw in this whole playoff was the average age of their team was like 23, 24, like 70% of the guys like 23,
Really?
24 years old. So it's showing you like the experience and like after guys are
Right.
staying in college much longer now.
If you're tired of chasing drivers for proof of deliveries, scanning paperwork at midnight, or dealing with "I never got my package" claims, Different was built to fix that. Digital signatures and photos captured instantly on any device. POD goes straight to your customer once your driver hits complete. No more phone calls, no more scanning, no more dealing with claims 6 months down the road because you couldn't find paperwork. Different was built by operators who ran a courier business for 35 years. They've lived your problems, so they built real solutions. Check out deliveredifferent.com/last2first.
That's right.
And so I think you're going to start seeing, we already seeing, unfortunately, a lot of the high school kids aren't getting as many opportunities now because coaches want to win now, and they have to win now, and you probably want a more experienced player to do that. So it's wild, but it's fun, and I think we all benefit as fans of the game, right?
That's exactly right.
All right, so let's go back into, so you mentioned you acquired Fast Mile kind of right out of getting your master's.
That's right, but I was working there before that. So
you're working
that's
there.
right. So I started working as a driver in the late '80s,
Okay.
and then I had the opportunity as I was going through college. I was sitting for the CPA exam, and the owner at the time, John by the name of Rex, came to me and said, "Hey, I'm really looking to retire. Do you want to buy the company?" And it was really a hard thing for me because part of my change as a person was from when I dropped out of high school was to really get focused and have a plan. It's sort of, as I would say, life rule number one: nothing good happens without a plan. So I had to have a plan, and my plan was go to college, get a CPA, go work public accounting. And here I am, I'm ready. I'm at the cusp of it. I'm sitting for the CPA exam.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing with accounting firms. I'm getting ready to go, and Rex comes to me and says, "Hey, I really want to try. Or do you want to buy the company and take over the company?" And it was a tough decision.
Yeah.
It was
How old were you at this time?
I would have been 26,
Wow.
and we were just doing rush on-demand work around Greater Orlando. It's all the company was doing at the time. But this was the 90s, so it was pre-email.
Yeah.
So it was busy, but we had 20, 25 drivers, handful of people in the office.
Okay. So the company was maybe $1 million.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
size.
1.25, somewhere in
Yeah.
that range in total sales. And so it was a change of plan, but I felt like it was an opportunity that I really couldn't pass up. So I decided to take it, took over the company in the early part of '97. And really, it was an incredible run since then. Within a handful of years, really started seeing the on-demand work get less and less, and really had to then. So I said, okay, where are we going to go? And where we went was into large package, what now is known as Final Mile. At the time, that was the name didn't exist.
Yeah.
There was basically no sales. Amazon was in its infancy. But anything people did in the final mile space was almost more like office supplies, which I never liked that segment of business. So I really started to go more into the larger package items, and then opened my first warehouse maybe 2004 or 5, at about 25,000 square feet, and thought I'll never fill it. I will never be able to get enough space to fill this warehouse. And then it just turned into a crazy 10 or 15 year run. We ended up with 250,000 square feet in Orlando, opened up Atlanta, Charlotte, and Charleston, which then moved to Columbia. So did 4 states, had 500,000 square feet, had over 500 drivers. It was an incredible 10 to 15 year run, all in the final mile space.
You took the company to $25 million top line revenue.
That's right.
From about $1 million.
That's right. It was a crazy time, and
That's
great
wild.
people.
Yeah.
Great people, and to go back to a sports analogy, in the book Good to Great, with James Collins talks about the right people on the bus, in the right position, in the right seat. I always took it to a sports world. I always said it's the right people on the team in the right spot. They've got to be in the right position. I mean, Tom Brady might be the greatest quarterback of all time, and everybody would say he is. You put him at defensive tackle, he's not playing in high school.
Yeah.
Never mind. So to me, the first focus was get the right people in the company.
Okay.
We're not building an A+ company with C players. You have to have the best people. So the first goal was get the right people in the company. And then once we get the right people in the company, then it's my job to put them in the right role to be successful.
Yeah.
Where their strengths are maximized and their weaknesses are minimized. And that's really what we did. And that was it. And I was, really, really proud when I stepped away from the company a few years ago. We had an employee brag board right beyond the reception desk. It was an entire wall. And it was how long people had been there.
Wow.
And I had 20 people that had been there 10 plus years.
Wow.
I gave away 25 year awards for people who had been with me for 25 years. It was an incredible time.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, because it's a testament to your leadership. It's a testament to being able to, like you said, we're getting to your coaching experience, because you sound like a coach talking. This is some coach talk. I'm picking those vibes. But identifying talent. And then, as you're saying, it's your job, it's the coach's job to kind of, put them in the right seat, right spot to execute and lead the team. I want to get into a few things on that transition from $1 million to 25. I don't want to just pass that up like it just happens every day, because it does not happen every day. It seemed like you grew a lot on the big and bulky side. A final mile, we call it now, there's all these different names out there. But you're right, at that time, that was maybe not even a thing. How did it become a thing? How did you not only identify it, but then execute on it? Because I tried it candidly for maybe a few years, and we struggled with it. Like we were kind of halfway pregnant, still trying to do the on-demand piece, and then not really understanding how home delivery worked, and we struggled for a while. But how did you execute on that part?
The biggest thing for me was getting an anchor customer that could support the warehouse. So when I got my first anchor customer that would at least pay for the warehouse, I felt like, okay, I can now build from here. But what I realized, and again, we're probably 2004 or 5 is in this range. I realized in Orlando is central to Florida. Companies that were bringing product into Florida, they hate line hauling into Florida because you can't get back out of Florida with any freight.
Yep.
But they were having to come into Florida, and they were having to drop in Jacksonville, they would drop in Orlando, they'd drop in Tampa, they'd drop in Naples, and they would drop in Miami. And I said, I think I can do away with all of this. If I can just support a truck, I can run a truck from Orlando to Jacksonville.
Yep.
As long as, and I'll just run it once a week. I just get one route a week. I just got to get enough freight in to support a truck to Jacksonville. So I did all of the state except for Miami. That still had to go separately. But everything else came into Orlando. So customers, quite frankly, and it was, again, now we start getting to the final mile space where everything was starting to grow. Customers love the model because I could sell them. You don't have 4 drop points. You have 1 drop point in Orlando. You can drop, you get out of Dodge. And then I will take care of the rest of the state. The key for me was, did the numbers work? Yes. Could I support a truck? Could I make money at it? And every model I ran was, yes, I could make money. I could charge them more to go to Naples because they didn't have the line haul cost of going to Naples, right? So people not familiar with Florida, Naples is about 3 hours south of Orlando. Tampa's an hour and a half away. Jacksonville's 2.5 hours away. So as long as I could support that truck, we could do it, and I could minimize their drop points into the state. And that's how we grew, because it worked. So what I grew initially thinking I need 1 truck a week, Tampa, I was running 10 a day. Jacksonville, we're running 3 or 4 a day. Naples, we're running 2 or 3 a day. It just grew customer after customer after customer because the model was unique.
Now, did you? Because I've tried this. This is where I struggled at. It was literally the same thing. We had a customer that was dropping freight in New Orleans, and then we're primarily servicing. We had like a 200-mile radius, which was the first problem. I should have carved that way down, but not knowing what I know now.
Sure.
And there was one lane going to like Lafayette, which is probably about a 3-hour ride, and I couldn't aggregate the freight to make that route profitable. And we struggled. We were getting delays because we were trying to hold freight to let someone else come in. So you know how it happens. But how long did it, two questions here. How long did it take to get to that kind of critical mass to make it profitable? And did you target the customers, or did they kind of hear, but did the network sell itself? Did they hear about it and they came running once they heard?
Some of both. There wasn't a lot of people in what we now know as the final mile space. So that just helped with word of mouth because we were doing it. But then, like the ECA, right? That was a great opportunity. That organization really helped to change what we did, because we were able to sit there and say, oh, this is our model. And they're like, oh, we didn't even know this existed. So that really helped a lot. But I changed, I think in 18 months, I grew 3 warehouses. So how long? It probably took about 6 months for the model to prove itself. And then within 18 months, it was just hold on. Really just hold on, keep growing, try to provide good, do everything we can to provide good service. Don't let things go backwards, and keep improving every single day.
Let's check out from one of our partners what's on the radar for 2026. What's up, David? How you doing?
Good to see you, Jason. Happy New Year.
Happy 2026. What's the one thing you're kind of most excited about from a feature standpoint coming up on the roadmap for 26?
We've launched sort of a fully embedded learning management system where contractors that are onboarded can get HIPAA certified, bloodborne pathogen, hazmat, radioactive, bar 3, and that library continues to grow. We are the best option if you're a life science and pharmaceutical delivery company.
What's the one thing you hear from your customers why they choose ICSAFE?
We've built this by listening to customers, and we help our customers run their 1099 operations just smarter, better, and faster than anyone else. We combine industry-leading speed, but also with uncompromising quality.
What you're most excited about achieving in the upcoming year?
We have a number of new exciting features coming out in 2026. I'm deep in the process of acquiring a company right now that specializes in savings and tax filing for 1099 contractors. We're not resting on our laurels. There's going to be a lot more to come in 2026. That's just one of the few things coming.
Yeah. And did you use a contractor model?
Yes,
for this?
all fully contractor model.
Okay, good. Because that's the other thing that we were using a W-2 model.
Gotcha.
So you can understand,
Right.
and it's probably gotten more efficient now, I'm sure. But at that time, like one of the things I missed was the in-house scheduler, right? So if someone had to, I was thinking the freight comes in, we fully control the scheduling. We kind of route it up and find efficiencies and deploy it. But then what I realized, and again, this is why you got to just talk to people in the industry. You'll learn so much if you just have conversations and shortcut a lot of these missteps that a lot of us has made. But freight came in, and I started realizing all these customers now calling my dispatcher to schedule their appointment. And their dispatcher's already overloaded with the regular business. So now I got to bring a scheduler in who's going to field these phone calls and schedule Miss Sally and Mr. John. And then if they're not home, it delays the route. And so we kept having these delays. And now, an 8-hour day that's planned, it ends up being a 12-hour day, a 15-hour day.
Right.
Overtime, and all the things that can go wrong started going wrong real fast. So you obviously were smarter than me in figuring this out. But that I see, I guess, how did you... you can't train, but how did you make sure that you execute on a service standpoint going to someone's house with ICs?
There were a couple of huge decisions that I made. One I made, and it was not with this in mind, it just worked out, was I took over my own software. Okay. So I was with a software provider, and when I bought this system, maybe, I want to say 2000, 2001, my agreement with them is if they ever got out of the industry that I could have their source code. And they decided a few years later to get out of the industry. Wow. So I took over that software program, and then I hired offshore developers, and then I developed the software for the company. The canned packages today are far superior to most anything that a proprietary system could do in my mind. But at that time, it was the opposite. All the canned software were built for on-demand courier work, freight forwarding work, something along this line. It was not built for final mile. Well, it gave me the opportunity to build software for the final mile world. So I built the software. So because of that, I was able to build what I call the scheduling module, which was critical to everything that we did. So I had a customer service rep who would come in every day, something very much similar to like a dispatch board. So it would look like a dispatch board, but it was a scheduling module. They would click on an order to call the customer, and it would tell them this customer is only serviced on Tuesday and Thursday. And then it could also bring logic in to say, okay, we just filled up Tuesday. You know, if we can deliver 15 orders in a day going to Naples, okay, we just hit our 15 orders for Tuesday. We're now going to Thursday.
Yeah.
Or we can create an extra run for Wednesday, whatever we had to do. Without the software, we couldn't have done it.
Wow.
But being able to do our software that we built and really built from what our team's needs were and what our customers were requiring, it changed everything.
Super smart, and it's not surprising because a lot of the folks I see have a lot of success in this space. They found some way to integrate technology to make not just the customers more sticky, but the operation much more efficient. And so exactly what you said. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting there with an employee trying to do all this manually, and it was a cluster versus having the tool and the scalability of that tool that you can replicate that every time a new piece of business comes in. You just probably modify the logic a little bit.
That's exactly right. Once we had it built, then exactly what you said, new customer would come in, but you used the right word. It's a tool. It's the most important tool in every business.
Yeah.
Besides you got people, right? But as an actual tool, nobody out there swinging a hammer, working a construction job, they cannot do their job properly without the right tool.
Yeah.
And in our world, we had to have the right tool. The right tool was software, and it made all the difference. And it gave me the ability, from a numbers standpoint, from a reporting standpoint, both internally and externally, I could produce anything that I wanted. I wasn't tied to what somebody else said I needed. I was tied to what my brain could come up with and our team could decide that we needed. So there were no restrictions.
Yeah. We were talking about that before we got on camera here about the importance of numbers and data. And I know you're a data guy, and even a lot of the posts you see come out from you is always tied to numbers, right? Whether we're talking about the prices and the economy and different things that's happening out there, to operating a final mile business. I guess the importance of that. So let's maybe go a little bit deeper, because I think a lot of folks maybe look at numbers, but they're not able to make decisions and making actionable decisions that are improving it. So it's one thing to have like a dashboard. It's another thing to leverage that dashboard to meet with your team, to really understand and go deeper into it, to make the adjustments you need to keep moving forward. So I know you're tracking numbers, but like, what were some of the key things you were looking at to say, okay, we on par here, or we need to change course?
It's a great question. First, numbers don't have a bias. We have a bias. Right? You talked about coaching. If I'm coaching a team, I've got a player that I like. Everybody say, no, I don't have favorites. There's not a coach in the world that doesn't have favorites. You have a favorite, but that doesn't mean that favorite. It doesn't mean that this should be wide receiver 1 just because I like him more.
Yes.
This guy might be wide receiver 1.
Yep.
And I've got to be able to set my personal feelings aside about whatever the topic is and say, what are the numbers telling me? Because they're not biased, as long as you're producing them the right way. Now, you can produce numbers with a bias all day long, and then they're pointless. But the idea is to give unbiased numbers that then lead you to a proper decision. I'll give you an example. I was doing a lot of work with one of the largest big box hardware stores that are out there.
Okay.
And they had a scorecard. And it was a bad scorecard. They would give us a scorecard every week, and there were 7 providers in the nation, and we were consistently 6th or 7th. We just couldn't get it right. And I'd meet with these guys every week, and I'm like, guys, your scorecard is wrong. Like, it's just not accurately representing what we're doing here. And then they're like, yeah, we sort of get it. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to develop a scorecard for you. So I developed a scorecard for them. I said, this more accurately represents. They said, well, we agree. And I said, okay, great. Well, what are we going to do? And they said, nothing. We're going to use our scorecard. And it was a pivotal moment for me, because it didn't matter that I was right. I go back to the sports analogy. If you sorry, I do this all the time.
No,
this is
you're talking to kindred spirit. You're preaching to the choir here, so let's go.
You take a look at any game.
Yeah.
And if you have a team complaining about the refs, complaining about the officials, complaining about that, almost always, what team is that? The team that lost. Because they spent their time complaining rather than playing the game that was being called.
Oh my God.
So I changed the term, first of all, for these people from this customer, from a scoreboard, from scorecard into a scoreboard. I said, okay, we're not calling this a scorecard anymore. This is a scoreboard. It put it in 10-foot letters and numbers at the end of the field. Our customer is telling us what is important to them. It doesn't matter that I think they're wrong. It doesn't even matter that the people I'm talking to with the customer agree with me. What matters is this is a scoreboard. It's at the end of the field, and it says we're failing. So our job is to perform to the scoreboard in the way that they're calling the game. They're calling balls and strikes. Sorry to mix sports here. They're calling balls and strikes. We're going to run our company according to their scoreboard. And we did it. We changed. We looked at their numbers, said, how do we work within their numbers? And it took us after the change, and it took me probably 9 months of fighting a battle I never should have fought, to come around and say, I'm tired of being ranked last. We're going to play their game on their terms because they're the customer.
Yeah.
I don't think customers are always right, but customers are always the customer. They set the rules. We're going to perform to their way the game's being played. And we, within about 45 days, went to number one. And we stayed there for years.
That was so many nuggets dropped right there. I hope y'all caught that because I got goosebumps, and we're gonna dig into because, man, that was awesome, and I love the sports analogy because that's how my brain works too. But to the point, the first thing I would say is we were talking off camera about what I'm working on with Last2First, and we're creating an L2F scoreboard, and it initially was called the scorecard, and I literally changed it for the same reason you just said, and I told my team, I said, it's not a scorecard. It's a scoreboard. Like when you play sports, the thing that I love about sports, and same thing you're saying, it should have no bias, right? I mean, you either won the game or you lost the game, or maybe you tied it. I don't know, but like it's black or white, right? There's no hemming and hawing or guessing. I was telling my son the other day, we was playing. He's in a basketball tournament, and this is a strange tournament. We played 2 games at one gym and had to travel 10 minutes away to another gym, and the refs in the first 2 games were not calling him any fouls. They let him play. I mean, it was getting rough. And my son, he's a football player playing basketball, so
he's in his world. He's like, no problem, my body all day long.
And he's doing his thing. And we go to the 3rd game, and they call them touch fouls. I mean, every time somebody touches it, they're blowing the whistle. He's getting frustrated, and I'm like,
right.
They're calling a different game. You got to play to the game. So going back to your point and the humility it took for you as the leader to kind of get off my own high horse about what I know is right, and even got affirmation from the customer that it's probably the better way to do it, and just play the game. Like play the game that you're playing. And if you want to change games, then fine, change games. But as long as you're going to play, as long as you can cross these white lines, like you got to know what game you're playing.
Exactly right.
It's so profound, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So I want to move to when you exited Fast Mile. So 2017, I think it was, right?
2017, I sold Fast Mile to Need It Now.
Sold Fast Mile to Need It Now. What led to that decision?
Really starts about 5 years earlier. So roughly, the company was growing tremendously, right? 2010, 12, 13, we're growing a lot. And I started asking myself, well, what is my exit strategy? What is my exit strategy? And I really didn't know what it was. So I engaged a company, and I was getting calls on occasion for M&A type stuff and people that were interested in buying, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I engaged a company to value my business and give me some feedback. And it was hard. I mean, this is like due diligence. This is what I went through for 6 months or so. And they came back and they gave me a valuation that I wasn't happy with. But I thought, okay, this is what it is. I mean, again, it doesn't matter if I'm happy or not. If this is what it's worth, it's what it's worth. So really came down to, how do I improve this? What do I need to do to improve EBITDA? What do I need to do to make the changes on my end? Not necessarily with that in mind, but knowing that was coming. Yeah. So I really started doing that in addition to running the business, was making sure. One of the key things that I did was I started working from home every Friday. This was before
remote work.
Before remote work was a thing. And people thought, oh, Lance will work from home on Friday is really not working. That was not the case. What I realized was whenever I would travel, and we had these other locations open, when I would travel, people would function just fine without me. They had a question they would ask, but they would function just fine.
Yeah.
But when I'm there and I'm sitting in my office, every 3 minutes, somebody's coming by to ask me a question. And I remember I was at a CLDA event, and somebody said something that has stuck with me forever, and that is, I was so focused on the urgent of what was happening every day, I was not focused on the important. So Friday became my day to focus on the important. Friday became my day from home to say, I'm not going to be tied up in this driver's running late on his route. These 3 guys didn't show up. This truck.
Yeah.
That's the day-to-day stuff that just occurs in our world, and it's important. We got to get it right. But I had to focus on more of the long-term vision of the company. Are we progressing the right way? And I had started before that. Every year between the week between Christmas and New Year's, I would spend a week writing out my personal goals and our company goals for the year. Writing out the goals was easy. The hard part was turning them into a way that was quantifiable. It's one thing to say, I want to get better at this. It's another thing to say, how do I know if I'm getting better? Again, go back to the numbers. So that was part of what I did. But part of this working from home and part of this when I realized I needed to improve the valuation was to make sure that we were doing the right things for the long term of the company. So in 2016, got a call from the folks representing Need It Now and Eric Montner, who I think is an absolutely great guy and had tremendous, and I had known him a little before, very little bit. But he and I had some contact, and we put a deal together. But I had determined prior to that what my number was.
Okay.
I knew that if this number was met, then I was good to make the decision. So it was a hard decision, but it really wasn't.
Drop-Off brings peace of mind, convenience, and professionalism to every delivery. We're helping healthcare, retail, and industrial businesses offer a better delivery experience. You can place a delivery online from your computer or phone any time of the day with upfront pricing and to-the-minute arrival times. Real-time tracking allows you to monitor your delivery on a live map throughout the entire process. You'll get automatic confirmations when your order is picked up and delivered. Our couriers are vetted, uniformed, and only drive in marked vehicles, guaranteeing a professional experience every time. You can rest easy knowing that we will represent your brand exactly the way you need us to. We're committed to providing exceptional customer service. That's why our delivery experts are available 24/7 to ensure your business goes uninterrupted. This is same-day delivery made simple. Talk to a same-day delivery expert on dropoff.com or call us today.
Because here's the number. And I didn't tell them the number,
But
I knew, that's right. But if the number was there, it was there. And Eric came, and their team came forward with a really good opportunity where, I would sell and we would merge, and then we would grow around the country, really grow the overall company, which I kept an ownership stake in with Need It Now. And then we would look to make another transition from there. And we did that. And we had a 3 to 5 year plan. Unfortunately, 3 years later, COVID hit.
Yeah.
So that 3 to 5 year plan became an 8 year plan because we had to wait for the whole COVID thing to, work itself through and the financial statements to work along with it. And then we subsequently sold Need It Now from there.
Yeah. I mean, perfect execution. I want to get into the story a little deeper. When you decide to transition and exit, what was your new role going to be? Was it still the same capacity?
Exactly the same. It's one of the things that making with the Need It Now portion of this was absolutely great, because what the vision was let every entrepreneur in every division, as Need It Now was acquiring companies around the country, do exactly what we had always done. So my role didn't change in the beginning at all.
Yeah.
It was strictly just keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
Just make money, produce results, add customers. But it brought to the other divisions that were around the country saying, well, where can we share sales? Right? You've got a customer here in Chicago. We've got a customer in Orlando. Can we get them to, different customers? Can we exchange sales there? And can we use some of the back end savings that would come about on some of the accounting functions and legal functions and all those sort of stuff where you can really lose money? How do we bring that in to make that better? But my role on a day-to-day basis stayed exactly the same for a number of years.
Yeah. And that was the interesting thing to me. I was with Drop-Off at the time, I think, when that deal happened, or maybe not at the time, but a few years later. And I got into the M&A world, and I was kind of studying what's the landscape, who's doing what, how they're doing it. And the Need It Now model was intriguing to me because it was maybe one of the only ones I saw where they were not trying to force integration, right? Maybe on the financial side, some of the accounting, HR, maybe forcing, but they were truly letting individuals still do their own thing, right? And I was thinking, like, man, that's probably not a good idea, because I was thinking it's hard to find all the efficiencies. You're not on the same platform, and et cetera, et cetera. But But it also, I think the thing that I learned, and I want to get your insight on this, is that it allows the company to keep moving forward at a fast pace. Because the integrations, and I was a part of this when we sold our business, and then as we acquired a company and did the same thing, they take a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. Sometimes it doesn't go well. It slows you down. It stalls some growth because you're playing defense
Right.
versus offense. And the Need It Now model is like you kept hitting the gas on offense. And to your point, you probably even hit it a little harder because now I've got a partner here in this market with a client that could probably work here. So like, it's an easy way to kind of just add new sales.
That's exactly right. It was no different the day after I sold than the day before. It was simply keep doing what you're doing. Let's figure out a way to take care of our customers, keep growing the business, keep growing the bottom line, grow the top line, take care of our people without the natural integration complications you say that exist, as I learned all too well a number of years later in that story. And I will get there. But that was, it really made it really fun. It really, this part was super fun.
Yeah. Now you mentioned in our kind of pre-show notes, you guys was tremendous growth through acquisition. I think Need It Now in a matter of a few years became a $650 million
That's correct.
business. So talk about maybe how that growth occurred and the role you played in that, and then also like the good and the bad of that, right? That it's obviously great you're growing, but then man, that's got to be challenging even with a model that's not necessarily forcing integration. There's still some obstacles there. What was that experience?
My experience in that was involved but limited because there was a team led by Eric Montner that my job was to run Fast Mile.
operation, yeah.
My job was to run Fast Mile. These things were happening and I was engaged with them, but it wasn't my day-to-day world.
Okay.
My day-to-day world was to do what I'd always done. When new companies would come on board, how do we integrate? Let's talk about customers. Certainly I would meet them with them in advance and say, okay, because they would want to know what's the experience like. Is it going to be like what's been discussed? That sort of thing. But that growth by Need It Now was crazy. But it was right. It was through acquisition and then having each of the entrepreneurs through the way do their thing.
Yeah. I'm sure. Like sometimes I think when these acquisitions happen, the goal is to get 1 + 1 = 3. Right? Like that's the ultimate goal. And I want to segue to kind of the next wave of this story was the Geodis portion of the acquisition. So I guess how many years were you there at Need It Now before? Was it, you mentioned maybe 8 years, I think, that before when you
2017,
sold?
2023, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so 6 years. Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
And the whole time you kind of stay focused on your world.
That's right.
I'm sure you lend your expertise to other markets and how you guys were doing.
Absolutely right. The 1 + 1 = 3 is exactly what we did. That was the whole idea. And that's where we came in the cross-selling, right?
Yeah.
It was always, how can we cross-sell? Okay, there's a great customer in New Jersey. How can we bring them to Florida? How can we bring a Florida customer to Chicago? Whatever it happened to be. So that absolutely happened.
Yeah. Okay, so then 8 years later, Eric and the team decide to exit to Geodis. How does your role shift? Does it change then from that standpoint?
It changed then. It changed a little bit earlier than that. Even at the end of the Need It Now time with Fast Mile, I'd moved my role over into what we called Final Mile Complete, which is where I was growing like a nationwide 3PL.
Okay.
With Need It Now. So we started doing 3PL work around the country. And I found it very ironic because I was always against 3PL type of work. I never wanted to, if let's say a customer had work for me and they wanted us to do work in New Orleans, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Why am I just going to take a cut? Jason's going to do the work. I'm going to get the credit for his work, or if he screws it up, I'm going to take the blame. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And I've just taken a cut for nothing. Why don't I just let the customer work with Jason?
Yeah.
So that was always my approach. I was wrong. Customers wanted a centralized, some customers, sophisticated customers, large-scale customers across the country, wanted a centralized approach. And they realized that we would use different companies around the country. So it was really fun. Again, I go back to building because it was fun building. So we built what we called Final Mile Complete. But it was a nationwide 3PL, so I did that, started about a year and a half or so before I'd stepped away from the day-to-day of Fast Mile and was doing this.
Okay.
Before we sold, Need It Now sold to Geodis.
Okay, got it. And so then you kind of stayed in the maybe more the 3PL
That's right.
segment of Geodis. And I guess in Geodis, they are the multi-billion-dollar operation, massive company, international organization. What was the kind of the goal? What was the objective? What did they lay out? Kind of, here's what we want to do here.
Geodis did not have transportation. They were really heavy into contract logistics, really heavy into these huge warehouses throughout the states, but they didn't have any ability to do actual deliveries, and they wanted to get into the delivery world. So this was a great way for them to do that. We had offices and transportation all throughout the country and a ton of markets, and they wanted to take advantage of that.
What is contract logistics? Explain that for the audience who may not be familiar with that.
So they have a warehouse that's got 300,000 square feet, or they had some, I think there's 1 million square feet, where they would receive and they would do all of the warehousing part that goes into every bit of it, from receiving it through arranging the shipping all the way through the delivery point. So they would do every bit from receiving to the warehouse, coordinating within the warehouse, doing the sort, doing whatever was needed there, but then also arranging the delivery on outside providers, because they didn't have a delivery arm. So they would arrange on outside providers, then get it delivered to wherever it was going throughout the country. And they're really good at it.
Yeah. So they brought the network of Needed Now to leverage delivery. And I'd imagine, right, that you all are thinking, like, well, we're back now. We got a
Right.
a big backer behind us now. We can really hit the gas and accelerate this thing. Is that what played out?
That was the hope.
Yeah.
That is exactly right. But great people. There was not a single person I worked with at Geodis that I did not like. Every single one of them really, really good, really talented, really professional, really good to work with. But it moved it more from being able to operate as an entrepreneur and being nimble and being quick and being able to change. Was they brought in their structure, and their structure was successful. It was successful for them. And so now it became more about, and more, if you will, in a big company type of environment. And I struggled with that. Not that they struggled, I struggled. They have their company. They're doing their thing. They paid a lot of money to operate this the way they wanted to operate it, and they had every right to do that. But it was hard for me, as somebody who had really never really had a boss, to now all of a sudden I've got to report through committees, and I know the right thing to do. But I've got to go convince 5 other people it's the right thing to do, and maybe they disagree with me, and it's their call. So I'm like, oh, okay, all right, well, I got to do it their way. They're now calling the shots. They're calling the play. So let them do it, and I'll execute their plan. But it was not as much fun, let's say, as the other parts. But that's my own failing, and I just struggled to work in a big company environment.
Yeah. It's similar. It's tied to sports analogies, like going, getting benched. Almost, in a way, right? You go from, I played quarterback in high school, I played receiver in college, and I remember maybe going to my senior year at Vandy, I was playing receiver, and I was supposed to be like the 4th guy in rotation, and we brought in this stud freshman that came in, and like the first practice, he ran a route on our best corner, just cooked them. I was like, so there goes my job, right? I'm out of a job. So I remember, that feeling of like, this is not what I wanted. But then I tried to just, and this guy went on to be, his name's Earl Bennett. He went to be at the time, he had set the record in SEC for receptions, drafted by the Bears 3rd round, had a 5-6 year career, NFL. He's actually now the GM of athletics at Vandy.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice. Well, he's done great things there.
Yeah, I got a PhD. Like, phenomenal. Yeah, hell of a story. But then I took my new role I had as literally like his coach on the sideline. I'll be on the sideline, like signaling to him.
Gotcha.
What the plays were, because he was young. He was just trying to figure it out.
Sure.
And as much as I enjoyed helping him out, like, honestly, like, I want to play.
Right. Exactly.
I want the ball in my hand. Like,
exactly.
I want to do something with it. Right.
Right. That's
so I know, and obviously similar when we exit to drop off. And although it was great for me that I kind of just reported to Sean at drop off, it's still another. You don't have the autonomy, right? It's not even when my dad was, my boss, I guess technically back home, but. He knows,
right, exactly, right. You did your thing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, you did your thing.
Kind of have I had the ball in my hand, like you win or lose, right?
That's exactly right.
And I liked it. I love the responsibility of that. So I know when you kind of maybe had the ball taken away a little bit, that's tough.
It was tough.
It's tough.
It was, but I felt like I owed it to them to give them my best, sure. and I would like to think that they said that I did. But at the time, I knew it was not a forever thing. But I think we exited as friends, and I wish them all the success in the world.
Yeah. What is, as much as you know now, like you left Geodis when?
July 2024. So it's been about a year and a half, about 18 months ago.
Okay. And are they? I'm obviously still operating today, but things
They
have
are.
changed a lot since.
They have, and they are really, at least in the Southeast, they're really focused, from everything I hear, on the retail work,
Okay.
where they're trying to do retail pool work. And that's sort of what led to Take Two, was when they were also doing on-demand work. But on-demand work is what it is in today's world. It's not in a tremendously growing segment of business. It was the most profitable percentage-wise that we ever did. It's not a growing segment. It's not huge top line dollars.
Yeah.
It's relatively easy to do with the right people, but it takes an infrastructure, even though it's remote, so it doesn't require any warehouse space. And they decided to get out of the on-demand and point-to-point work, which I understand, because it doesn't bring big dollars with it.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to then saying, okay, well, we can step back in and keep these people working and keep our customers taken care of on that side. But their focus is on retail pool work, again, at least in the Southeast, from what I hear to the people I still talk to that are there.
Yeah. Well, what's really the motivation there for you to step back in the game? Because, like, I'm assuming you didn't need to do this, right? You've obviously had a hell of a career. You've been at least a part of a couple of different exits. You've done well. You know the stresses of this business. This is not a, I'm in insurance now, and I see how much golf a lot of these guys play. I'm like, I don't think I've played a round of golf since I've been to.
Right.
It's just a different mindset. You just used to working 24/7, right? So it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's taxing, right? You talked earlier, and we didn't talk about it on camera, but you went through a divorce. I went through a divorce by running the business. Like it puts a lot of pressures on you.
That's right.
What really motivates you to get back in to the industry?
I've always felt that loyalty is a two-way street. I feel like in this industry, we require loyalty of our people, right? Like if I pick up the phone at 8 o'clock at night, going back into the old days, and we need something at 8 o'clock at night, I've got to trust that the manager on the other end is going to take my call and say, hey, we got to do something. We got to meet at 3 o'clock in the morning. We got to do what we got to do. And I needed people around me that were loyal to me and loyal to the company and loyal to the vision and loyal to our customers. That I got. But there's a reciprocal part of that. I have to be loyal back to them. And part of that loyalty comes, sometimes they just make a mistake, right? When we're doing business, like, okay, they're a great employee. They made a mistake. They ran a route. We threw the ball. They dropped the ball. We needed the first down.
Yep.
We didn't get it.
Yep.
But you know what? You're still wide receiver one. You're still seeing the field. You're coming back in there. Now you drop the ball every play. That might be a different answer.
Right. Short leash.
That's right. But when Geodis made the decision that they made, it was my loyalty check to say these people that have been with me, that had been with me and helped me achieve the success that I had and some of the comfort that you talked about that existed, this is my time to repay that to them. And so that was a major catalyst to do it. There was the side catalyst, but very, very important, that I could do it. I could do it with my wife. Now we could do this together.
Yeah.
Because that was different than the first time. The first time that was not the case. It was not an effort in that way. So able to do this together with Tina has been really, really good.
Yeah.
And then also because of the work that's there today and the on-demand work, it's not nearly as intensive as it was before.
Okay.
So it doesn't have that intensity to it. What I don't know is where we're going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, right? Do those opportunities come back up and do we get back into where we were before? I'm not sure of that answer. But right now to this point, it has hit every box that I was hoping it would hit.
Yeah. So you're enjoying.
Absolutely. It has been, and a lot of this it wasn't that long ago when I was working with a big company and not enjoying that. Now it's like, no, we see a problem. Let's have a call. Let's fix it. Let's move on. Let's not have a meeting to discuss the next meeting, to plan the next meeting, to solve a problem. No, let's just fix it and move on.
Yeah, stop meeting to meet. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I'm sure you picked up a lot of things too from all these other experiences that you can now incorporate, right? Some of the things that the structure and the things that some of these big organizations bring to the table, and allowing yourself to operate still entrepreneurially, but also probably maybe some efficiency gains too.
Without a doubt, right? You don't go through something and not learn and improve as we go through it. So, at this point, it's been I started this. I actually made my first delivery the day I got my first car. That was 1986 to date myself. So we're now we're at 50 years. Yeah, 40 years.
Yeah.
40 years. So you learn a lot in 40 years, and it's fun to say, okay, how do we apply this today?
Yeah. Speaking of which you learn a lot, you wrote a book title. It is whether you lose or win, and how, wait, let me get this right. It is whether you lose or win. No, did I get right there? No,
I'll get it. I'll get it.
You tell me.
So when I was growing up, and I think you've heard the phrase in sports. The phrase in sports goes, "It's not whether you win or lose; it's how you play the game."
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
When I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, that makes sense. It's not whether you're going to lose, how you play the game. It's just play the game right."
Yeah.
As I got older, I realized that is so wrong.
Yeah.
It is so wrong, because it implies that if you won, you cheated, and it's okay. And it also implies it's okay to lose. I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay to lose. We play to win.
Yeah.
We play to win. But we can win and do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
The two are not mutually exclusive. In fact, I believe they are intricately connected.
Oh.
So we win if we do it the right way, and we do it the right way. So it's not whether you lose or how you play. It is absolutely you do both. You do both together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is whether you win or lose, and how you play the game, and that's where the title came from.
I love that. You time the Herm Edwards. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Play to win the game, right?
That's exactly right. You don't have a scoreboard. If you don't care if you won, why do you have a scoreboard? Just take the scoreboard down. Just go throw the ball around, go run it around, go kick it, go whatever you're going to do, whatever sport it is. Don't care what happens at the end. But guess what? That doesn't happen. You walk out to a T-ball game, they don't turn the scoreboard on, but every parent knows what the score is.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's competitive, right?
But,
I would tell you, I coach my kids, and I would, we've started off kind of rec ball, like
Right,
local
right.
league play, and it's not as competitive. Then you get to like the travel ball stuff, and it's the intensity. I mean, everyone, like the parents, everyone's now dialed in, and I tell them like, when I was coaching, sometimes you have these parents out there. If you're watching this, don't come at me, but sometimes you have parents that are, they're maybe not as interested in the competition as other parents are, right?
Right.
And so, but when we're playing, competitive ball, I'm like, we're playing to win the game.
That's right.
I mean, I'm gonna give everybody a fair shot, and I want everybody to play. But like, if you ask me if I'm playing to win, you're damn skippy. I'm playing to win. Like, why else are we out here?
Why are we doing it? That's
Yeah,
exactly right.
I'm not here to get a participation trophy.
That is exactly right. We're here to win. We're here to win, but we are here to do it the right way.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
and in business especially. I believe that we're here to win, and we're here to do it the right way. And we're here to win. We're here to grow our business. If we grow our business, our people are taken care of. So if our people take care of us,
Yeah.
and then we grow our business, we now take care of those people and more people. So the two absolutely are working together.
Yeah.
But the same in sports, right? A team that is constantly skirting the rules, complaining at the ref, cheating, they're generally not winning anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Or you can win temporarily. Right? You
right.
can get some short-term success.
Sure.
You
That's right.
maybe you get lucky, something like that. But it's hard to sustain that. And it's hard to look. I think at the end of the day, when you in the game, right? You want to look back and have know you did it the right way, right? When I started off this conversation, I talked about your reputation. Like every time I've heard your name come up, literally it's always been something positive. That means something, right? I'm sure that's a point of pride for you that you've treated people the right way. It's something that the way I was raised, my parents raised me like you're responsible for helping the next person forward, right? There's a level of responsibility. To whom much is given, much is expected in return.
Right.
And it's good to hear that companies are still doing that, and there's leaders out there that are still trying to do it that way, because the reality is we're in an industry that is tight margin, and it's competitive, and there are a lot of shortcuts that you can take. And trying to win the game.
Yeah.
So I love the way you phrase it. So you're book author too. It's all right. So you're massive all three. Man.
That was a good time writing the book. How
long did it take you to put it together?
A year, probably a year together. I had to use a ghostwriter on it some because I struggled. I tried to do it on my own, and I struggled to get it to come across the right way. So I brought in a writer to help me write it, but it was a really good time. It was a good time to be introspective to myself and my walk and my life, and say, what have I learned along the way? Mm-hmm. But what I've always felt is it's built. Life is built based on principles, whether it's be personal principles or business principles. And ultimately, we've got to sort of strip away what happens on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
We're trying to make a decision and say, okay, what is the core principle at play here? And then apply that to to the situation at hand and make the best. So the book is really the principles that, I feel like have served me well, and it's split into two parts.
Yeah.
First part is just on life, because I really want to help people, teenagers, let's say in that 16 to 20-year-old span where I made a ton of mistakes, to say to them, hey, there's a path here.
Yeah.
There's a path. But the second part is on business and what I've learned and what principles have guided me through my career.
Yeah. I love the story. I love the journey. You've inspired a lot of people. You've taken care of a lot of people, and you're going back and doing it a second time. As we wrap up, I ask this question to all my guests about their kind of last to first moment, right? Is that kind of crossroads moment where you made a decision and it put you on the path to where you are today. So when you think back on all your experiences, the success you've had, even some of the challenges and trials and tribulations, what is that last to first moment for you?
If I can cheat a little bit and give three, there would be three moments that I would give, and we've talked about all, but the decision to not follow my plan of going down the public accounting route through the CPA firm, that was the biggest one, because that put me back in the logistics industry full time. The decision to really focus on final mile work, because that was incredibly successful for me, and it really changed. The company was doing that, especially when it was at the infancy of final mile industry existing. And the third was the merger with Need It Now and working with Eric and that team.
Yeah.
Those would be the three. Of course, there's many small decisions along the way, but those would be the three.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Lance, man, I appreciate you being on the podcast. Like I said, I'm super excited for take two, right?
Me too.
I think the second time will be the better time around. And you have your beautiful partner and bride joining you on this journey. So that's awesome. It probably helps to, like, I've seen my parents who ran a business together. Right. Sometimes you bring these problems into go from from the conference room to the dinner table. But you've had enough experience to navigate that. So super excited for what you're going to be doing in the future. And thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us. It's good to be with someone, like I say, that does it the right way. And I think more folks in the industry need to understand how to do that and how you can find success in doing it that way. And so it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate you.
Yep. All right, Last2First family. Lance Dearborn, Take Two Logistics down in Florida, Central Florida. If you need some help in that market, reach out to him. We'll be out. Peace out. Thank you.